Most of the people see the mighty Columbia as the big wide river and Kettle Falls and all of that. But when you think about every little drop of water that comes to make that mighty Columbia, we are the same in a sense, that we are like that little drops of water that make one big, recognizable, powerful group.
The river has a power to unite us across generations, across spiritualities, but we have unthinkingly created conditions where we've broken the relationships that would be the best between the river and life.
Many times rivers and other natural geological formations are used to divide, whether they be lands or territories or provinces, states or countries. This is not so for the Columbia River. You, we, all the people of different cultures and nationalities have been coming together, working together, and continue to do so, united in our care and concern for the Columbia River and those whose lives are touched and impacted by it.
For many generations, the Columbia River Basin has supported a diverse ecosystem that breathes life into the natural environment across Western Canada and the United States. The lasting and far-reaching effects of both colonization and climate change have taken a toll on the Columbia River Basin, as with other natural environments around the world.
The purpose, of course, for the Columbia River Treaty was to have an efficient supply and an abundant supply of hydroelectric power and control flooding in the lower portions of the river. And for us, and I think most other nations, it's the single largest infringement on our rights.
While the treaty did offer benefits, it has been devastating culturally and environmentally for water and land, wildlife and people. And it left tribes in the US and Indigenous sovereigns in Canada, those who had most closely lived with the river for millennia, and therefore know it best, completely out of the treaty's negotiation and decision process.
But the water, any water, creek, whatever, we respect it. That's the way we're taught.
So all of our ceremonies and our prayers are keyed to water and to sacred water systems like the Columbia River. It's a very integral part of our culture, our deep respect for water and the healing powers of water. In that regard, our legal traditions, our legal orders, our traditional and ecological knowledge from the beginning have taught us to not only respect water, but to caretake and to be responsible for the well-being of our water systems, our watersheds. And that's part of our laws that have been passed down for the last millennia.
What that salmon calling ceremony and the spirituality that's part of it has to do with our connection to the river, our responsibility to the river, our connection to those salmon, and our spiritual connection to the natural world that river feeds. And so one of the things that I wanted to mention is that those ceremonies are going on all over the river system. That's not the only one. All of the different ones that are being recovered are also part of that system and the spirituality of our people that unifies our people in spirit over the thousands of years. It isn't just a few years ago that this took place. And I want to remind people of that when we're talking about the Syilx laws, that it was mentioned that our people were given those laws as a result of the way in which our people were organized along the river, and how our people exercised those protocols come from our chaptik, which contain our laws and contain our teachings.
It's important for us when we talk about those rights and responsibilities. There are differences that first panel talked about. The rights reflect privileges that we have that we can assert, and responsibilities are much more grounded in that connection with the earth. You know, we may have the right to do something like create a mine, but what are our responsibilities to those watersheds and to those things that we've been carrying out for thousands of years?
So it's not a coincidence that our people are suffering and that the land and water is suffering. When we think about the loss of those family and community structures, those social structures, those cultural ways of transmitting knowledge and teachings and healing, our people suffer. And when our people suffer, everything suffers. When our land and water suffers, everything suffers. So the healing of the river and the relationships is the healing of ourselves.
It's simply that so much has changed since 1964, both in society and in the river. So much so that most feel that the 1964 vision is no longer relevant. A new vision is required.
We can rethink how we do these things, just like we need to rethink how the Columbia River Treaty might not just be about revenue generation or power generation, but about ecosystems, about our relationship to that area as Indigenous people, about the relationship of the non-Indigenous peoples who are also impacted by this, the fish, the wildlife, the medicines, the air, and of course the water.
Including Indigenous communities in their rightful place as decision makers on their own territories will reshape the way that we interact with our lands. It will reshape the decision-making structure. It'll have a pretty profound impact in the outcomes of projects now and into the future in a way that will create a more sustainable world for all of us.
Colonial perspectives and priorities have really made a mess of ecosystem values that our own science is proving to us that we've made a mistake and we messed it up. And we really need to fix this. So knowledge is great and science is fabulous, but it comes with a cultural context. And the cultural context that Syilx communities or other nations bring to resource management was really founded on these interconnectednesses between ecosystems and environments and people and animals and water and land, as well as the reciprocity and respect for nature. And that's the ethics that is the success of this program. That discussion was able to kind of happen. Again, I feel we are just done a little bit and we can do a lot more in terms of that. So I don't think we've kind of got it completely dialed in, but I think we're in the right direction. And I think we're seeing the benefits of that in the successes of the numbers of sockeye that are returning.
The folks in charge, so to speak, the politicians, the federal entities will tell us it won't work, it's going to cost too much. And you know, we didn't even touch very little on the economic benefits of returning salmon to the region, to the Columbia River. There's a whole nother area we could talk about in those economic benefits. But again, it doesn't have to be either or. We can continue to provide irrigation, navigation, recreation, all of those hydropower, all of those things that they've put on our river. We continue to have that, but we can also we can also bring the salmon home. We can have good, clean, functioning ecosystems. It doesn't have to be either or.
So we need to make sure that all of the work we do moving forward encourages healing within our communities, across our cultures, across our religions, shows and highlights what we can agree upon first and foremost, knowing that there's differences, but those differences can be our strengths. That's the magic and the medicine of diversity. But if we can focus on what we can agree upon first and foremost, the health of our water, the health of our future generations, all the other stuff we can talk through, we can work through. Because if we have that common goal for all paddling and swimming in the right direction, we can get there together. It makes it easier on all of us.